Hi guys, my name is Kate Hannigan and I'm excited to talk to you about tips for creating a strong query or submission. As you've got your manuscript ready or almost ready, it's great to think about all the nuts and bolts of getting it out into the world. My journey to publication took about 8 years. I submitted over a long stretch and it took a while. So please don't get discouraged. And I have 8 books out that I can incorporate into the talk and 8 coming out. So I am here to give you this shot in the arm you might need about sending your things into the world, because it can really happen. And just don't let the no's get you down if you encounter a no here or there. Or in my case, a lot of no's. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts of this. I think it'd be a great exercise to just, if you have a weekend, just sit down with your laptop on a Friday night and just start going through the agents out there and poke around their websites and see what they represent, see the books that they brought into the world, the authors that they represent. And sometimes they will have like a wish list of the things they're looking for, and it might absolutely align with what you're producing, you know. So stalking your agent is a really good thing. Another reason I say stalk your agent is it can give you pointers on what you're going to need to do when you're ready to submit. In my day, in the beginning of this process, you would print out your manuscript and mail it in. But then things evolved to just send it as an attachment, and now it seems to be the process is a query manager. You poke around on a website of an agent that you think looks good, and even hit the button for submit. You're not going to submit right away, but just so you know what's going to be asked of you. One of the big things you need to determine is the genre. So they're going to ask you your name, if you have a website, you know, some of those things, but then they're going to want to know about your book. So when it comes to genre, you've got to think about exactly, you know, kind of think of it as user experience. Who's reading this? Somebody, you know, is it someone younger than 13 or older than 13? Because that's kind of the dividing mark between middle grade and young adult, or known as YA, young adult. If the protagonist tends older, then that's going to be young adult. If they're, you know, 11, 12, up to 13, and the issues aren't as complicated as sort of the teen issues, then it might be a solid middle grade. There's a range of the type of middle grade that you want to mark what it is. Is it a mystery? Is it paranormal? Is it sci-fi? Is it contemporary? Is it multicultural? You know, how do you want to you know, mark your manuscript? Because think about how it's going to appear on a shelf. Where are they going to shelve this? You know, are they going to shelve it in contemporary? Is it nonfiction? You know, so try to mark those things. To make that process easier, I suggest you create a file, a document where you've got all your submission information ready to go, and you just copy and paste. Because if you just enter it in and then hit send, it's gone. And then say you want to submit to a few other agents, you have to redo everything. Another big thing they're going to ask you for is a cover letter. The cover letter should look like a standard cover letter that you would print out and pop in the mail. They are succinct and convey the information as tightly as possible, and then you're done. There's that expression TLDR, too long, didn't read. So keep that in mind, that you've got agents that are, you know, busy and just want to get to your copy. They don't want to be bogged down with a really long letter. So keep it to just 3 or 4 paragraphs, and you want to hit quickly with the title, the genre, the word count, anything that can kind of help them get it in their head what they're dealing with. So remember, 3 to 4 paragraphs is a great kind of industry standard there. Another thing that you're going to be asked to do as you fill in these blanks on Query Manager is the pitch. The pitch, to me, it just boils everything down to the essence. It's like one sentence, a one-sentence summary of your project. And I have found that in writing the jacket flap early on in a project helps me concentrate it and distill it into the essence of what is this thing that I am working on. So going even smaller from the jacket flap down to a one sentence is also something that's really helpful. So let me give you an example of my pitch sentence. Now remember, the pitch is different than the synopsis. If you get asked for the synopsis, that is like anywhere from 2 pages to 5 pages, and it's the whole deal. And what you might want to do is like a paragraph for every like major plot point, and then you're going to give away the ending in the synopsis. The synopsis is the whole deal. The pitch is just like a sentence. So here is the pitch that was part of I have this historical fiction series. Historical fantasy is the actual classification. I didn't even know historical fantasy was a category, but it is. Maybe you're writing it too. This is the pitch, okay? Tapping their love of comic book heroines and teaming up with the most remarkable women of World War II, 3 seemingly ordinary 11-year-old strangers join together to become one of the most powerful superhero forces fighting for justice on Earth. So, boom. Not the greatest, maybe, I don't know, but it does pack in there that it's superheroes, it's real life women from history, and it's like an adventure. You know, I tried to put in as much information as I can and make it exciting so they say, oh, I want to read more. So as you put together your pitch, try to remember, like, you want to hook them. You don't have to tell the ending. You just want to do the thing that kind of grabs them by the collar and pulls them in and makes them want to go, hey, I want to keep reading. I want to see this manuscript. Another thing you're going to be asked for is comps, and those are comparables, just like it's done in real estate. If you want to buy a house and there's a comparable house that was on the market at whatever price point. Same thing with these books. You want to have like 3 to 5 comps in mind. You're going to have to probably put these on many of these applications, or not applications, but this query manager. When you submit to an agent, they're going to want to know, well, what is this book like? And it's another exercise that kind of grounds it for them. So the way I think about this process is you want the agent, all of these things, you want the agent to be able to kind of anchor in their head, oh, this is what this is, so that they can get up and go down, to the hall, or, in whatever world we're in now with COVID, but they can contact their colleagues and say, oh my gosh, this is this thing I just got, and they can do a quick recitation of what it is, because you've given them a 1-sentence pitch that they can hold in their head rather than 5 pages, and you can give them sort of a visual. Jumping back to the pitch real quick, something that I thought was really fun with the superhero series is I had pitched it to my agent when I was trying to hook her into going for this. I said, I'm thinking of it as Codename Verity meets the Powerpuff Girls. And when she pitched it to Simon & Schuster, she wrote in the letter, Wonder Woman meets Hidden Figures. And that's what's actually on the marketing material. If you go to Amazon right now, that's what is on there. So the pitch, you can get mileage out of it, and it can really help people anchor in their heads what this project is. So the comps are a great way to say, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that, but it's different. So when you say the comps, you can also spin it with, here's how it's different. So where do you go for figuring out where these books and how do you read in the field and kind of know about middle grade mysteries or YA paranormal romance? There are a lot of places you can go to get a list of great books that you can read. So one of the top places in my mind is Goodreads. It's a free membership. There are lists all over the place there that it's a community of readers and writers. A lot of teachers and librarians on there. And so they compile lists of the best YA paranormal of the year or of the decade. So that's a great resource. Other really good resources, the Brown Bookshelf has reviews, author interviews, just lots of book stuff. Nerdy Book Club is another example. That's a community of teachers and librarians, as well as the writing community. School Library Journal, oh my gosh, it's a wealth of information there if you want to go. Picture Book Builders, that's a site I like that if you want to think about like how people construct and deconstruct their picture books, it's a great way to get insight into how those guys do it. Next, let's talk about the bio. I think the bio is hard. You're not going to tell them about when you fell in love with reading or writing when you were 8 and then take them through till 38 or something. You're just going to do like a sentence or two about you. If you have writing experience, that's where you put it. You can say, I've blogged for such and such for 2 years now, or I won a poetry award, and that's why, I brought that love of poetry to my novel in verse. Or, if there's some way you can connect something you do in your life with the manuscript. When it comes to actually submitting your writing, your manuscript, just think simple formatting. Helvetica or Times New Roman, 12-point double-spaced. Clean, simple, don't make it fancy in any way. Keep the text black, don't add any color. And that goes for picture books, which you could just make it go line by line. Every line in the book can have its own line, double-spaced. If it's just a novel, like middle grade or YA, just do a straightforward, show where your paragraph breaks are. And if it's a graphic novel, there are certain scripts to follow, and that example script can show you generally like a kind of like a movie script. So take a look at those. Another big question around submissions is multiple queries, and some people agonize over this, understandably so. Sometimes it seems like you can only do one agent at a time, and I say no. Put your manuscript out there in the world. If you submit only one at a time, and it takes about 6 months for this process, you will be 112 by the time this process is over. I would say submit like 5 or 6 to different houses. Find your 5 or 6 top agents, on your list. You've got your document of all of the things you're going to put in your submission. Maybe also have on there 5 or 6 top agents that you've learned about through SCBWI or any of these, websites where people talk about or interview agents who do children's books. Another way to find an agent you like. Say you enjoyed a book. Go to the very back of it into the acknowledgments, and a lot of times an author will thank your agent. So if you're like, oh, I love this book, as you reach out to the agent, you can say, I loved that book that you did with such and such author. So I hope you would consider my book. So multiple queries, do it, is my vote. But do it in waves. Query 5 or 6 agents, and if you get a nibble, awesome. If you don't, see if they've said anything the same, like kill off a character, or it's too long, or, I think you need to focus a little more on blah, blah, blah. You can make revisions and then go out to the next wave. Multiple queries are kind of, I think, the way to go. And I think agents understand that you will be 112 if you do it one at a time. So I think they're going to be okay with it. But you want to be respectful and professional. If you do get interest from an agent and then you get interest from a second agent, you kind of need to let them know that, okay, well, I'm talking to, you don't have to say names or anything. I'm talking to another agent, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. Those are just some of the nuts and bolts of getting it out in the world, but I wish you all the best. I hope your journey is faster than mine. If you have any questions, please feel free to just email me. My website is katehannigan.com, and I'd be happy to talk through anything or clarify anything for you. So lots of luck. Take care.